Well, it's been quite the week for Valve, hasn't it? Now, there was a lot of speculation for some of these releases for quite some time, but Valve certainly sort of just dropped it suddenly, and all at once, too. And of course, that is referring to the 3 releases being their new controller, which kind of saw coming, and nice, I guess, but it certainly didn't get all the hype that the new Steam machine and VR headset are getting. Though some of that hype might die down once we actually find out what these things are going to cost, because that's going to certainly be the kind of the crux, whether or not this is truly competition or whether they're going to do the same thing every other company has and just start overcharging for everything and, just being unattainable, unaffordable, and, well, I don't know. Valve doesn't really seem to do that. The Steam Deck, as far as handheld PCs go, has been dominating the market due to how just affordable it is and how capable it is at doing what you want it to do. Whereas Xbox, Asus, Lenovo, MSI, they're all charging these premiums. And even from some of the Chinese exclusives like GPD, One X, and even Ioneo, they've all been charging rather exorbitant amounts, upwards to $2,000 for these handheld PCs. And that's just a little bit too much to ask at this time. Not to mention that all of the gaming consoles themselves have all shot up in price as well, being Xbox and PlayStation, all going, instead of the trend of dropping the price as the years go on, they've raised the price. And Nintendo, even though the cost of their decade-old hardware has certainly gone down, they rose prices too because they could. But the majority of those companies are publicly traded companies, which means that they have to abide by shareholder interests. They have to make sure that number go up, whereas Valve isn't really held by that vice. So they can make certain decisions that, they want to make instead of what shareholders demand. Now, to be clear, no company is ever your friend, and that would include Valve, but certainly they have done more to earn goodwill than pretty much any other company, and they do seem to have the interest in maintaining that goodwill. There was one little piece of information that is going to be what I'm really talking about here, and is that the VR headset that they have is running SteamOS on it. It's not, has the ability to stream, but it will be its own computer because it's also using an ARM chip. Now, that's the interesting part because SteamOS is a Linux distribution, and Linux, that version of Linux running on x86 devices. So with that ARM chip that they have installed on that headset is going to be doing translation layers for those x86 softwares, games, the software, the OS, it's all x86 being translated on an ARM chip, which isn't exactly new, but it is the first time we've seen Valve kind of being open and upfront about what their plans for the future are. Now, if you're new to this, the ARM is just much more efficient than x86 is. And we've seen that. A lot of x86 handhelds all have the same struggle, and that is battery life. Now, they've done what they could to mitigate that with clever software implementation, being able to lower wattages on the fly to run things a little bit better, but inherently, you're gonna need to have a bigger battery and a lot more cooling in order to keep these chips moving. So ARM kind of had its writing on the wall. But the problem is the whole backlog of all Steam games have been x86 developed, and you can't exactly tell developers to go back to games they made 10 years ago and start from scratch, or port their games to run on ARM. Some have, but very few have or have interest in doing that. So the true answer is being able to get your device to translate it for you on the spot. That makes a whole lot more sense. And Valve has been contributing to that project, and it has been a live project because for the past year, I've seen massive improvements on Windows x86 emulation on Android. And this is huge because we're able to play some games, and I'll show you some of that now, from my actual Steam library. Now, at first, the application Winlator would open up a Windows environment. It would be essentially a virtual machine on your Android device, and you would be able to install applications. And granted, you could download all the drivers that would run things. You could play or run that application on your phone in a sort of native experience. And at first, all it did was show promise. It wasn't great at first, but it has since blossomed and been extremely supported by the community, especially because there are some countries that don't necessarily have as much access to PCs and, like regular computing devices, but phones, mobile devices, are much more readily available. And, they got phones there. And that's a lot of Asian countries. Now, they have wanted to play a lot of PC or console games, and, let's just say there's been a lot more motivation to develop, software for your phone to translate that, and there's been a lot of support there. And also, Apple, oddly enough, has also contributed to this, for their own selfish means, but they saw the light and saw that ARM is more efficient, and they would get much more battery life out of their laptops if they started, making their chips with ARM architecture. So they had the same problem where a lot of Mac software was x86 and they had to translate it. So they also developed to the project. Now, Steam is one of the biggest gaming marketplaces in the world. It's the biggest, let's just say it out loud, which is another subject in a second. But if they could get more users to install Steam on their phone, if they could have more, it's a broader market. Why wouldn't they want to have Steam on mobile? That way you could play your library across the board, and that just makes sense. Now, a lot of people are starting to argue right now that Steam is a monopoly, which isn't true. It just definitively isn't. Now, do they have the largest chunk of the gaming space? Yes, they do, but that's because the competition just refuses to get good when it comes down to it. There is very little competition, or at least efforts, because let's see, what other players in the field do we have? Now, probably the next best as far as like a reason to get games through another store would be GOG, so Good Old Games. Now, they're special because their library, and when you buy games on GOG, you're not just buying a license to play the game, you're effectively buying a copy. Now, you can download that copy from the store, and it won't need any digital rights management to run in the future. It will just work. And if you're never connected online again, you'll be able to install that file as long as you want. Now, if the store goes down, as long as you have that file, you will have that game forever. And that's about as good as owning a disc of it, right? Of physical media. So that is compelling, but they don't have every game because not every distributor wants to be able to provide a game without digital rights management. And there's reasons for that, but at least ethically, they are one of the best store alternatives. Now, next in line, you would have either the Xbox store, which I think no one's buying anything from. Most people use Game Pass, but they shot themselves in the foot when they upped the price literally 50% and tried to justify it by listing all the reasons why it would be worse. It's a mess. So other than that, the next closest thing would be the Epic Game Store. Now, they have tried to earn goodwill themselves by giving you a free, or sometimes even a few free games every single week that is a license that you get to hold forever on your account. And that's awesome. I have a large Epic Games Store library because of that. You just check and see if it's something you're interested in, and then you claim it, and then you get to keep it. I have not bought a game ever on the Epic Games Store, and that's because their store itself is a bit of hot doo-doo. It is not good. It's very hard to find anything. It's very hard to browse categories. It's just a mess. And that's where we go back to Steam. Steam is really good at finding the things you're actually interested in. They have really good categories. They have a really good community backend where, people get to talk about the games they like. And I don't know, there's more of this organic feel to finding what you'd like, and, just more of a sense of discovery. And they do that really well, and they've hardly changed anything over the years, and it's still remained excellent. So some argue that they're a monopoly, which is just kind of silly, because it's like, if you think about like kids running a lemonade store, little Gabe Newell with his lemonade stand is charging $1 for a delicious cup of lemonade, but then we have Mr. Tim Sweeney in the corner who's selling you the ingredients to the lemonade and trying to offer you free cups of lemonade, and you have to make it yourself, and everyone's confused by what lemonade they're getting, and then they just go back to little Gabe Newell and buy his delicious cheap lemonade that they've been buying all these years. But then you have angry EA down the street, and they're saying, hey, that's not fair. Steam is a monopoly. They're controlling the market, and we should do something about it. But then they charge $10 a cup for a bunch of lemon rinds and water, and hit you over the head and tell you that you have to buy from them or else. And yeah, it's just a mess. So it's not that they are stifling competition. They just are better than the rest of the competition, and anyone else could, actually try, but they're not. So anyway, obviously Steam running on Android and, being able to play native PC games on Android is kind of a big deal, because now you're starting to see a market open up with these little gaming handhelds that are smaller. They're more battery efficient. They last a really long time, and you can actually fit them in your pocket now. And you can use, until Steam actually has their own version of it, you can use apps like GameHub, which log into your Steam account, and you can play your actual Steam library, and it will use your game saves and then update that game save afterward. And while it's not running perfect yet, you can't just play everything yet, because it's complicated and there's a lot of drivers to go through, because it turns out that not everything plays the same. It's just years and years of development that you're trying to cram in. A lot is improving quickly, and I mean very quickly. So sometimes there's things that you wouldn't be able to play a month ago that play excellent now. The other side effect of that is that now we're going to probably see some more gaming phones, and Ioneo, for one, has teased that they are making a slide-out gaming phone, and I am very excited about it, because the RG Slide came out earlier this year from Anbernic, and oh man, that thing is just... This technically didn't really exist before. It has this nostalgic feel to the old sliding phones and sort of the PSP Go or the Xperia Play phone of the slide out controls. And I could see a world, if we're getting more emulation on phones, where people are going to start making interesting looking phones again with physical controls and buttons and all that. And I am here for it, because I am getting really tired of just these glass bricks that are just uninspired and annoying. So I'm excited for that. I think the other side effect too is that by being able to play actual real games on your phone, you can kind of, I would hope it would kill the dopamine slot machine style, tap, log in, buy our gems in order to play today type of games, all the slop. I loathe mobile gaming in that space. I hate that type of gaming, and it's rotting us. It's polluting our brains. It's like a gambling addiction. It's terrible. But to be able to bring real games that I think people would prefer anyway, to mobile, that would be nice. I'm here for that. But there's the other thing. So some might argue, why get a gaming handheld if you could just play the games on your phone. Maybe you bring a controller, and then now you're bringing two devices anyway, but that's neither here nor there. At the end of it, right now, the way phone batteries are, they're getting better. There's some good batteries now, but the problem is it does eat into the battery a good bit when you game, because phones aren't really meant to do those higher tasks for longer, so they heat up a lot faster, and then they burn through their juice, and it's still not quite ideal. So gaming handhelds are nice because a lot of them have these fans on them, these heat sinks, and even though they're small enough, they're nice in a dedicated way. Now I'm gonna do more videos talking about that because I have some lovely little devices to show you that may bring you a good bit of joy the way they brought me joy. Anywho, so yeah, the other flip to it is that as phones and Android and ARM devices, let's say ARM devices for now, get more powerful, there's gonna be a time soon where your next computer, your next laptop might just be an Android device, because if you can, if web browsing aside, if you need some actual apps that only worked on Windows, being able to emulate them on your phone and run perfectly fine, and then just docking it and using it on a bigger screen with mouse and keyboard, there's a lot of compelling reason very soon to just ditch Windows altogether, because Windows is getting awful. I mean, it's not been super great for a while, but at least with Android, there's a lot more customization where you can, if excluding the Google Play services, if you just use Android by itself, there's a lot of custom, versions of Android that, you could escape a lot of the whole spyware garbage that you get through all these tech companies that, give us free stuff. Anyway, it's a long tangent that has kind of gone all over the place, but I've been mildly obsessed with the emulating x86 on ARM lately. I see so much potential and so many ways to hurt big tech companies, and I do love hurting big tech companies, and I think that this is going to really put a fire under Intel owns x86 and rents or leases the license to AMD, and there's just been such little innovation in that regard. There's little incremental updates, and it's been slowing down as far as chips, because it's only Intel and AMD making x86, and they refuse to, Intel refuses to give the license to anyone else, so it's been slow. But ARM has been much more open as far as who can develop on it, so it's been so rapid, and it's getting good, and I'm excited for it because by having smaller devices that are more power efficient, it means that you're going to be able to do more, and who doesn't like doing more? So anyway, I think I'm going to wrap up my little yap sesh here, and I have a few devices I'm going to show you next time of what emulation is like right now, because it's a world I want to share with people. I think everyone needs to know, what's out there right now. Anyway, that's it for me.